Going first to Washington and Sky News' own Trudy McIntosh to find out how this news broke in the US.
Well, at 1:46 p.m. Sunday afternoon in Washington, D.C., Joe Biden posted this letter to his X account. It's an unconventional way to drop out of a presidential race, but that's how Joe Biden ultimately decided to tell the American people that he is no longer going to be running for re-election against Donald Trump. It partly is probably explained by the fact that he's been battling with COVID, abruptly coming off the election campaign trail from Nevada in the middle of last week. He hasn't been seen publicly since. We haven't seen any photographs. There hasn't been any media opportunities. He's been recovering, according to his doctor, but the decision today not to do this as an address to the nation, not to appear on camera, rather a written statement. He's promising to come back here in the next few days. We will see that address to the nation, and by that point it's going to be pretty clear. He endorsed his VP, Kamala Harris, and it seems like everything's locking in behind her as the hours continue here, that she will be the one to replace Joe Biden.
It is just extraordinary, of course, when he went into COVID isolation under all sorts of pressure. We were saying that this is where he's going to talk to his colleagues, talk to his family, try and consider what he's going to do in the future. But the idea that the leader of the free world sort of says he's not going to run again by tweet is quite extraordinary. So there'll be a lot of expectation in the US about what he and Kamala Harris and others will say tomorrow or in coming days. But the other point here, I suppose, is that there was an alternative, Trudy. There was an alternative for him to actually resign from the presidency, in which case Kamala Harris would be sworn in immediately. There would be no problem with a Democrat convention or looking at whether or not other nominees come forward. He could have handed over to her.
I think that would have just been a step too far for Joe Biden's ego. It was already so hard for him, clearly, to come to this decision that he needed to bow out for the good of his party. We know he's a proud man, at times a stubborn man, according to those who know him well. He doesn't think necessarily, well, he hadn't up until this morning, according to reports. He didn't believe that he couldn't beat Trump. He still thought that ultimately he was being underestimated by his Democrat colleagues. For him to have resigned today, I just don't think he could get himself to that point. We've seen him on the decline since that debate just 25 days ago, but that will ultimately be the moment in history, I think, that the chapter closed on Joe Biden. He tried to fight on for these 25 days, but ultimately, as the pressure was growing initially privately and then those incredibly damaging leaks in the hours after he publicly said he had COVID from Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, once that started to come out, the briefing about what Barack Obama was saying, ultimately this was always going to be untenable for him to remain.
Yeah, look, I think it's disgraceful the way the Democrat Party has handled this. It's been obvious for 2 to 3 years that he can't go a second term. They've been dragged to face reality now at the last moment. Tell us about the process then, because it's almost a month away to their national convention. We have to wait and see whether anybody else puts up their name. How will the process unfold from here?
So there is going to be a virtual roll call. They're yet to lock in the exact date, but that should happen in around the first week of August. So we could see these delegates already giving a very clear indication that their nominee is likely to be Kamala Harris. Then we get to the floor in Chicago in around a month's time. That's going to be fascinating to see who else is going to want to be a part of this. I saw Joe Manchin. He was an independent. He was a Democrat, then independent, and is now flirting with the idea of rejoining the Democrats in order to run in some form of a campaign. He wants to bring the Democrat Party back to the centre. Unclear at this stage whether that's actually, A, going to happen, B, if it does happen, what impact it would have on the race. It seems like at the moment all of the big delegates are behind Kamala Harris. I'd point out in terms of donations, and this was another big reason why Joe Biden had to go, the money was drying up. And as of today, the biggest day so far in this campaign in terms of fundraising efforts for Democrats online. So a big switch now that they appear to be locking in behind Kamala Harris, and that's going to be crucial because we know in American politics, Chris, how important money is in actually your success in winning in November.
Extraordinary times, Trudy. Thanks for joining us again, and strap yourself in.
Yeah, strap yourself in indeed.